It is Thursday, May 30th, and I am back in Algonquin Park at the Smoke Lake access. And I'm here for 4 days. The plan is to head south on Smoke into Ragged and then Big Porcupine, where I'll stay this evening. Day 2 will have me heading east from Big Porcupine along a chain of lakes into Lake Louisa, which is my destination for night 2. On day 3, I'll exit through the north end of Lake Louisa, head west through a chain of lakes, bringing me back to Big Porcupine, completing that loop. And then on day 4, it'll just be the paddle out, which is essentially a retracement of what today's paddle is supposed to be. It is a gorgeous day here. It's about 7 degrees, and I'm in the sun, so I'm boiling. There are no bugs, no clouds, no wind. So I'm gonna head out on the water now and make hay while the sun's shining, as they say. And I'll check in with you at the first portage, which I believe is a 290, followed by the double staircase, which is 595, I believe. So stuff's already staged down by the dock, and I just have to load the canoe and make my way. Halfway across Smoke Lake now, and the wind's picked up, but it is blowing directly behind me, which is making travel extremely easy. We're probably at about 11 degrees right now, which is chilly, but the radiant heat from this sun through this cloudless sky is really just providing the perfect amount of heat, while at the same time not keeping me too hot. So hopefully it stays like this for the rest of the day, although temperatures are supposed to climb to 24. Anyway, that's it for now. Just scoping out this beautiful Smoke Lake. A couple of cottages here and there, a few motorboats, but all that will end after this next portage. 290 meter leading me into Ragged. Well, that was exciting. I just spotted a turkey-sized eagle perched atop of a tree on the east side of the lake as I headed south towards Ragged. And I think I caught it on camera, but the waves were really pushing the canoe around and the eagle was taking off just after I locked my lens on it. But wow, always great to see such a great bird. Just banged out the 290 meter portage from Smoke into Ragged. And it wasn't bad. It was straight up for the first maybe 100 meters. And then after that, it turned into a fairly flat, typical Algonquin portage. But now we're at the put-in, and Ragged Lake is just down there through the cut. So I'm gonna get this canoe loaded and make my way down the lake. I'm just at the end of Ragged Lake, approaching the portage into Big Porcupine, and in the swampy area at the bottom saw a gigantic moose. However, the canoe party behind me were a little chatty, and the moose caught ear of that and headed off into the bush before I could get out the big camera. Anyway, I just watched him go. I knew I wasn't going to capture him, so I just watched him, and sometimes it's best to watch them with the eye camera instead of the camera. Sometimes you miss even seeing what you want to shoot with all the fiddling around. So I'll get my camera at the ready for later in the day, but for now I'm focused on this portage, which is just ahead. But it's always amazing to see a moose, whether you capture it on film or not. Let's go. The double staircase. This is the double part. Whew. Devil Staircase portage is complete, and that is one aptly named portage. The staircase, well, it lasts for about the first 2/3 of the portage and then levels out before descending down to Big Porcupine Lake. I'm currently standing at the put-in, looking out over to Big Porcupine, and all I've got left to do today is to pick a campsite that I want to stay at on Big Porcupine and make my way there. So the wind is still quite breezy, but it looks like it's in my favor. So I'm going to get back out on the water and make my way over to my chosen campsite. It's around 12:30 right now, and I put in just before 9 a.m. So that's how long it's taken me to get here. Okay, time for some water and then get back in the boat and make my way. Paddling through a narrow midsection of Big Raccoon Lake, and this section can be taken in lieu of a 400-meter portage. So you basically paddle 50% further than you would if you took the portage, and you skip the portage. And that's okay because the wind's been at my back until I rounded this corner. Now it's blowing in my face. But I'd much rather have a leisurely paddle than do an unnecessary portage. So no complaints here. And this is a gorgeous stretch. Well, I've made camp, and I chose for a campsite one that was located on the leeward side of an island at the south end of Big Porcupine Lake. And the reason I chose this campsite is because first thing tomorrow, I've got a portage directly across this bay, and I wanted to be as close as I could to get an early start in the morning. But since arriving at camp, I've set up the tent, I've pulled the canoe way out of the water, tied it to a tree, and I've also set up the bug shelter, which I almost didn't bring, and the bugs haven't been terrible, but Mason really doesn't like the bugs, and I don't like to see him getting stressed out by it. So the bug shelter's here, and it might come in very handy after the sun goes down. But as of now, the bugs aren't horrible. I haven't even put any dope on. I've just sort of covered up. Anyway, I am dead tired. You know, nights before trips, I barely get any sleep, and then there's the 4-hour drive. Then you got to paddle and portage and set up camp and do all that stuff. So I am beat. I also skipped lunch, which wasn't smart. So I think I'm gonna have a quick snack, dive into the tent, crash for a couple hours, get up, and then start thinking about firewood and dinner. It's just 3 o'clock right now, so there's lots of light left in the day. Well, that's gonna be it for me. And I'm gonna cross my finger that these two loons that have been circling out in the bay make an appearance for the camera a little bit later. Anyway, that's gonna be it for me for now. I'm gonna tuck in and catch some shut-eye. Well, I just finished dinner, and wow, I did not eat a lot of food today, so I was famished. Mason was as well. When we were crashed out in the tent for our nap, I could hear his tummy rumbling, and mine was rumbling as well. But I got a chill, you know, when you're hungry and it's a bit chilly outside, it doesn't take much to really get you shivering. So I got up, collected wood, sawed it, sweat, you know, put food on the fire, ate my big meal, and now I'm hot. The sun's just setting over there, and it won't be long till it's behind the horizon. Bugs are out. Mason's in the bug shelter, and I'm just out here looking at my map, trying to see what tomorrow holds. And to recap today, I put in at Smoke and then portaged into Ragged. From Ragged, I portaged into Big Porcupine. That was the double staircase portage. And tomorrow I have 5 portages for a total of 4,170 meters. And all those are double carries, so that's going to be a workout tomorrow. But the good news is there's not a lot of open water, which means if there's wind, I'm not going to be hung up by it. And the other bit of good news is that the longest portage, 1,500 meters, is the last one of the day. That's the one that takes me into Lake Louisa, where I'll be spending tomorrow night. So between now and the time the sun sets, I'm just going to tidy up around camp and bear-proof everything, get my breakfast stuff all lined up for tomorrow, get some water prepared, and then I'm going to hit the hay because I am pooped. So that's going to be it for me tonight, but I'll check in with you tomorrow morning when things start up again. Thanks for joining me on day one, and we'll see you on day two. Good morning. Morning of day two, and it was chilly last night. Not cold, but there was a chill. I wasn't cold, but there was a chill in the air. When I crawled into my bag, it was a good feeling. This morning is also chilly. No bugs yet, which is a great sign. Beautiful mist out on the water. Mason's still crashed out in the tent, and I'm about to start on coffee, which will be courtesy of the stick stove. I didn't bring any fuel canisters on this trip to keep things light for the portaging. So I've got the little stick stove. Haven't used that on a full trip in a while. Gathered my little twigs last night so I'd have something prompt and ready for breakfast this morning, and it is now coffee time. Good morning. We're just after 7 a.m. now, and I've been up since around 5. I'm on coffee number 2, and it's been an eventful morning so far. The pair of loons that seems to hang out south of the campsite came in very close, and we're very social. Lots of eye contact, lots of twisting of heads, lots of, what are you doing on my lake type thing. But I'm camping and getting ready for the day. Now, the original plan was to begin the portages that lead east to Lake Louisa. However, this guy right here had a very difficult time standing up this morning, and although I did give him some anti-inflammatory medication last night for his joints and hips, he is moving very slowly this morning, and that was after only 830 meters of portaging. Today has 4 kilometers. I was hopefully be able to handle this because just last week and a half ago, I was at Silver Peak, and he basically ran up and ran down that mountain like it wasn't even there. So I had high hopes he would be maybe a little more able-bodied to do the portages ahead, but now I'm second-guessing myself. Anyway, I'm going to let him stretch out a little bit. It's still early, but if I'm going to hit the portages, I really should get moving. So we'll see. I'd say it's 50-50 at the moment. I'm going to give his knees and hips some rubs and see if that does anything. Anyway, regardless, just delighted to be out here. It looks like to be another great day. It was a cold night. The sky looks quite cloudless, so I'm expecting it's going to heat up shortly. The bugs have started to come out, but they're not terrible. Just mosquitoes and no black flies. Hello. So that's the score right now, and I'll check in a little bit and see what the agenda turns out to be. Right, bye. I'm going to stay put. I'm not going to continue with the trip to Louisa. I just don't want to run into problems, a couple portages in with him being lame or not being able to keep up. And since I'm doing double carries, there'll be a lot of back and forth. And of course, he doesn't know we're doing 4 portages. So the first portage we get at, he's like, oh, amazing. And he runs back and he runs forth. So I'm a little worried how he will do by the end of the day. And so, yeah, not proceeding there. And that'll be the new reality. I'm going to have to do trips that are less portage focused if he's going to come along. I thought he could manage because just a few weeks ago, he sprinted up and down Silver Peak like it was nothing. But today he was extremely stiff getting up, very slow moving, and yeah, so that's that. But fortunately, I did bring along, as I always do, my favorite book, Grey Owl's Tales of an Empty Cabin. And it's my favorite book for a couple of reasons. One, the stories are phenomenal. Grey Owl, think of him what you will. What a spectacular writer. I mean, he does turn sentences into paragraphs, but the way he captures the details and the feeling in the stories he writes, you feel them in your bones. And if you haven't had the pleasure of reading The Tree, probably his most famous short story, not that short, it started as a short story and then turned into sort of half a book. Man, oh man, every time I read that story, there's like a tear in the corner of the eye. It's a hard book to read, but also a beautiful tale. A tale of a 640-year-old tree, really. It's the main character in the book. And if you get a chance, it's a spectacular read. I just read it over and over. Anyway, it's also my favorite book for a second reason. This is an old-style hardcover, and even the pages, they're all rough cut along the edges. And when I look inside, there's just age has stained the outside of the paper. Inside it's whiter. The outside there's sort of this discoloring happening. None of the pages have come loose, despite the fact I've taken this on, oh gosh, just about every trip I've been on in the past 10 years, I'd say. Sometimes when we go with the guys, we actually read a story and we'll pass the book around and each guy will read a few pages, and it's a really lovely way to pass the time around the campfire and a really great way to share storytelling without getting too bored of hearing one person's voice. Anyway, in this book, there are several short stories, including The Tree. I bought this from maybe M. Arnott off of eBay a number of years ago. And how great is that? A book with someone's name written in it. Does anybody even write their names in books anymore? People carry books anymore? Or do they just bring iPads and such? Anyway, I've got a book. I love the way it feels in my hand. And I'll be retreating into the bug shelter shortly to keep Mason company. I'm going to dive into one of my favorite short stories by Grey Owl, an amazing writer, just an amazing writer. It's hard to believe it's only 11 a.m. I feel like it should be late afternoon. It's been a busy morning. After making my breakfast, I did a little bit of reading in the bug tent, then got restless and came out and decided to explore some of these trails that lead through the woods. The morning sun was coming through and was creating a lot of light opportunities. And then I wandered back out to the main campsite and wandered along lakeside as far as I could. It's a bit swampy down there. Chased a couple chickadees with the lens, but they were a little too fast for me. Go, go. So I think I might actually get started on breakfast now. I had a little bit of soup earlier, but it's time to eat something proper. So I'm gonna get that going and then contemplate the rest of the day. Right, bud? All right. And that is a moose. Okay, time to get the big lens. Definitely a moose. It has been a very exciting morning here at the south end of Big Porcupine. Started off with a pair of loons coming in around 5:30 or 6 this morning. And then after that, the cow moose and her calf at the far end of the lake. And then watching all those incredible pollinators just go from tiny flower to tiny flower, grabbing all that pollen and moving on to the next one. And then about 15 minutes ago, I heard the honking of 2 Canada geese on the west end of my campsite. And I went over there and they were squabbling with each other. They were pecking at each other. It looked like a lover's quarrel of some kind. But then when I got out in front of the campsite, they saw the other pair of geese that were on the east side of the site, and they were none too pleased to see that. So they ended up engaging in a battle of sorts out in front here, with one flying just inches off the water and skidding into the other one that was not willing to give up the territory. It eventually did. The fight got pretty close to me, actually. I don't think they saw that I was just sitting right there at the bottom of the shore. Anyway, once they saw me, they thought they'd just take it across to the far end of the lake and spook any future possibility of seeing the moose calf and the cow that I saw earlier. But now they've moved on to a different part of the lake to continue their battle. And it's only 1:30. Wow. All this activity from this one lonely campsite. Amazing. This is quite a bit of chili. I dehydrated it at home and brought it. Bit of a new recipe this time. I put some chunked beef in as well as the ground beef. Not sure if it will rehydrate as well, but we're about to find out. I'm gonna have this on the stick stove, which will require a fair bit of simmering and fire tending, but that's okay. And then to go with, I've got a piece of naan, which I'll enjoy alongside, and a bit of Parmesan to go on top of the chili. So that's gonna be dinner tonight. Mason looks very pleased with the meal that I just fed him, and I think the rehydrated ground beef was a nice touch for him. Those big chunks of beef do not rehydrate very well. The rest of it's good. It's almost 8 o'clock now, and from the looks of things, that sun's gonna disappear behind these trees maybe in the next half hour or so. But I'm in a good spot. I've eaten, fed Mason, I've got everything cleaned up and tidy, everything's away that can go away. And the plan is to get up early tomorrow and make my way back to the access. I've spent a full day and a half at this campsite, and it's been lovely, but any more than a day and a half at a campsite and I start to get a little squirrely. So does Mason. The minute I start to pack up in the morning, he usually starts running around and getting all excited. But the wind has been very intense this afternoon, and I would prefer not to paddle against it on the way out, and the prevailing wind is from the north. So the plan is to get up early and go and see what kind of ground I can make before the wind puts its hand on my forehead. Anyway, that's probably my last check-in for today. I'm gonna pour a little bit of grape juice and sit down in the patchy sunlight down by the water and keep an eye out for that mother moose and calf and see if they make another appearance. Good morning. It's just after 4:30 a.m. and my plan to beat the wind has failed. The wind is already up. It's not terrible, but the ripple has increased in the 10 minutes or so that I've been up. Anyway, I'm going to start up with my coffee and then get this camp torn down and start making my way back. I had to have my coffee on the go this morning, stealing sips in between packing up camp. But now that's done, and I've got everything packed up, and Mason and I are preparing to head back to the access. It's regrettable in some ways that I wasn't able to do the original trip as planned. I was looking forward to exploring some of those lakes to the east of where I am now, because I haven't done a lot of exploring in Algonquin Park south of Highway 60, and I was looking forward to taking a bite out of that. But that's not meant to be, and that's okay, because I had a spectacular time here. Terrific campsite in the south end of Big Porcupine, with equal mix of sun and shade, a breeze that came in off the water to help mitigate some of the bugs, and of course the stage to view all the extraordinary wildlife I saw in these 2 days, including the cow moose and calf, and the squabbling, dueling Canada geese that were out front, plus all the other tiny bits of life. So all in all, a great trip. It's pretty hard to have a bad time in Algonquin. So I think that's going to be it for me, and I'll end the video here rather than trying to put words together back at the access point. Thanks so much for coming along, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, let's go, bud.